So, folks, before we got time to really sit and digest Multiverse of Madness or Moon Knight, we're jumping right back into the world of the MCU because Miss Marvel is here. Look, Moon Knight, Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, a lot of M's. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Agent M appeared in this episode. That's cool. I like him. That's great to see. I'm going to do weekly reviews for Miss Marvel. I felt like it's a good place just to get into this world. I have been a huge fan of Kamala Khan for a long time. I wasn't there at the beginning. I was on the train late to the Kamala Khan fandom, but I like this character. I've said it before. I will say it again. Kamala Khan is the closest any of the companies ever have gotten to reestablishing a Peter Parker level character of popularity and story and world. She's a great character who represents our times in ways no other character has. I admire her. And of course, it makes sense that she was going to be making the big leap to television. She had to. So, first episode came out. A relatively unknown cast in terms of my eyes. Again, we're dealing with a culture that I don't know a lot about. So, I don't want to sound like snobby or prudish when I maybe don't say certain things that are said in the show. I don't understand some of the words they're saying. That's just because of my stupidity and my... I don't want to say upbringing, just I don't know the words. So I'm sorry if the way I talk about some things in the show isn't culturally accurate to how they're being portrayed. I'm just going to say that. So, relatively unknown actors because the people we're seeing here are not people who usually get the spotlight in terms of American Hollywood stuff, which is what I grew up on. So I think that's really cool to see them in here. Episode 1, it dropped last night. I just sat in my room watching it. I'm just like, okay, I'm genuinely curious. I stopped the episode, I took a minute, and I really just thought about it. And I have to say this is probably the coolest thing the MCU's made in a long time. I don't want to hesitate, I hesitate to say ever. It definitely is one of the most aesthetically pleasing shows they have made. I'm going to change that. Next to WandaVision, because WandaVision on a whole other level for me. That just changed the game in terms of what we can do with stories. Aside from WandaVision, this is the best looking thing the MCU has produced, because it's so original. It is so flashy and fun. It is so upbeat and heartfelt and has all the right emotional beats working for it. I adore everything we're seeing in this. This is not like a negative thing to say. I'm just going to say this. This reminds me of a lot of a Disney Channel original movie or a Disney Channel original series. That's what I grew up on. I love those original things. They're silly and campy at times, but there's a lot of heart in them and you feel the emotional beats coming, and I think that's really cool. I love the way this feels. It really reminded me of Lizzie McGuire, which is really dating me as a person who's talking about this stuff, but that's what it really felt like. It had that beat, that family dynamic, that relationship with people. The world doesn't understand me. I'm my own individual. I have a creative side I'm looking to explore, except I'm in a world of superheroes. And this does not shy away from the superhero thing. Now, look, I'm sure this is going to be a point of contention for some people who don't understand the Miss Marvel character. Kamala Khan, her entire conception as a character is she is a person who grew up in the Marvel Universe and is a fangirl of these characters. That is her conceit. That is why she exists. And I love that it makes so much sense because we've now had 13 years of stories in the MCU that, yes, this woman who is still a teenager would have grown up in this time period seeing these characters her whole life. So, of course, she would be a fangirl. That's really cool. And it opens up, and you understand she's a fangirl because it opens up with this really great scene where she's making a YouTube video talking about Captain Marvel. Now, before we get into everything else, I do want to talk about this. This is my one thing where I'm like, I don't buy this yet. The one problem I have with this show, and this is kind of just in the overall MCU so far, I don't buy that anybody would really think Captain Marvel's their favorite superhero. Because in all of the appearances we've seen her in, she was in the 90s. Nothing about Kamala's character says she likes the 90s. And she appeared on Earth for maybe 5 minutes to punch Thanos. And that could be cool. And I do like the idea they're playing with it that she doesn't really know anything about Carol. It's just this is a girl I know. Clearly setting up that Brie Larson will be appearing later on in the series. And if she doesn't, it's a shame. She will be. I know she will. It has to happen. And it's just I guess kind of in that sense I do understand. Oh, she's obsessed with this person who just showed up and did everything. Girl power and all that. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. My problem is, out of every character we've seen in the MCU, I don't think a young person would idolize Captain Marvel. I think there's a lot of characters that would come before that on the spectrum. I think they'd have a better grasp of somebody like Black Widow or somebody like the Wasp as opposed to Captain Marvel. But again, it's just where we are in the story. I can buy it. It's fine. Carol Danvers is just not a cool character in any interpretation. That is what it is. Now, here's the thing. There's a plot line through this episode. It's kind of very like formulaic in some senses, but I do like it a lot. Basically, the story is that Kamala wants to go to this cool convention, Avengers Con. Yeah, because they have conventions down here. And look, I have thoughts on Avengers Con. I'll say it now, actually. It looks really dumb. It just looks like a big warehouse where a bunch of geeks threw stuff together. I guess you could say it's the first one. So in the essence, it's like the first Comic-Con in this universe. And the first Comic-Con wasn't the best. It was kind of disorganized, so I could get behind it that way. I just think it's kind of silly. And I didn't really like it that much. I was like, I get this scene. I know where we're going for from this. I don't really love it, but I know it's necessity for here. So cool. Kamala's there. I think I was just thinking about this too. If I existed in the Marvel Universe, I don't know if I'd worship the superheroes like some of these other people do. Maybe that's just the cynic in me, but I'd just be like, they're gonna destroy my car. Why would I like them for that? I don't know, but I respect that. And look, Iman Vellani is phenomenal. She was perfect. She was the perfect choice for this. Right down to every little detail she got right. She had the facial expressions, the mannerisms, the perfect energy for somebody growing up in a world where you want to feel special, but feeling like you'll never break that stride to become somebody extraordinary. She nailed it. She did it perfectly. I love the way she interacts with her family, with her friends, just the certain little changes she makes. And I know Iman was a perfect choice for this because she gets this stuff. She's talking about which universe the MCU's in. She's talking to Kevin Feige all the time about it. She's talking about stuff on Letterboxd. I'm like, yeah, you get it. You know what you're doing. And I respect that because you are a fangirl of this universe. You're a fangirl in the universe. It's working really well. She's doing phenomenal, and she knocks it out of the park. So we do see a little bit of her interactions in her life when she's at home. It's really fun to see that. Again, one of my favorite characters is her brother. He's such an interesting guy. Doesn't get a lot to do here, but I'm sure he's going to appear up just sparingly just to drop words of wisdom and be a cool older figure, which is really fun to see. I love her parents. They're really fantastic. And again, I know they have a certain way to say father and mother that I can't remember, so I'm just going to say mother and father. Her mother is fantastic. Like, the woman playing her mother is so cool because she's just like, so that woman, you know, just so like that is the generation she is a part of. And this episode's called Generation Y, which is a title from the actual comic book, which is fantastic. But of course, she's just like, every time she takes Kamala out, it's like, that dress doesn't fit. And then when another woman comes in who knew somebody's daughter who tried to figure out herself, she instantly snaps back and like, oh, my daughter can't break from the mold. I have to pull her back in to fit that mold. I love seeing that because it's very believable. And again, this is not my culture. And I grew up in a certain life. I grew up in a certain life. So again, this isn't something I'm familiar with, but what I'm seeing here, I get it. I understand what it's saying, and it's like very much that culture. And reading things online by people talking about that who grew up in this kind of household, in a Muslim household, it's like, this is accurate. These are accurate portrayals. I think that's really cool. So I love the relationship between them. I love her struggling to find the way to ask her parents for the ride there because I actually really like the beginning when she's going to go get like her license, but she crashes the car immediately and her parents are trying to blame the instructor for teaching her something bad. I love that. It is so cool. It's so funny. And it's just amazing. I just love the way this world is so expressive. Like, animated stuff appears every time she's talking. The world shifts into like these different drawings and sketches. I love it. There's a whole sequence where she is texting her friend and the texting is appearing everywhere. And I'm like, that is so classic Disney, where it's just like this really cool vibe of like Disney XD. It's so fun. It was such a cool thing to see. I love like this. The energy in this is just so fluid. And I love seeing that. It's just really cool and really fun. I do want to talk about Bruno. I know we don't talk about Bruno, but I want to talk about him. He's a character in the comic books. Somebody who I got his appearance. It was never something I actively sought out. In this show, he really is something, isn't he? He's definitely like the generation that was like, Tony Stark is my guy. Where Kamala was like, I love Captain Marvel. Bruno was like, I want to just like invent shit and weird stuff. And he did. He makes her costumes. He makes these weird light up gloves for her. He makes a weird Siri Amazon thing where it's just like a box that could control everything in their house. And I'm like, how is that possible? How can you hook it up to voice activate the TV and the lights? That is insane. And I'm just like, I get what they're doing here because it's going to explain how she's going to get her suit. He's obviously going to design it. I like that a lot. I also just like the subtle ideas where for the Captain Marvel costume contest that's at Avengers Con, you have to find a way to be original, and just Kamala struggling to find what she wants to put in for her culture in there. It's really cool. It was a really nice moment, and the way her and Bruno play off each other, it feels like best friends. Like, they really feel like they like each other. There is, of course, the kind of will they, won't they thing. They subtly talk about it, but it's still there for you to see. I'm glad they didn't force it down your throats. We do introduce you to some of the other characters like Zoe, who, of course, we know what's going to happen with her and their friendship that's going to form. She's also in the Captain Marvel costume contest again. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe like Captain Marvel punching Thanos inspired a whole generation of young women. But we haven't seen that yet, and we just kind of talked about it in a YouTube video here. So, okay. That's kind of cool. Her costume is more inspired by the classic Miss Marvel costume that Carol wore before she became Captain Marvel. That was a cool homage. Another thing I really liked. There's a lot of things I like in here. I'm just jumping all over the place, okay? There's two sequences actually with references to G. Willow Wilson. First one is like a plaque on the side of the school. I thought that was fantastic because she is a huge inspiration to get this story going. She made Kamala what she is. I love it. It's great. And I don't know if this is intentional or it has to be intentional. The counselor at the school is named Gabe Wilson, and his initials are GWW, G. Willow Wilson. I'm like, okay, that is intentional. I like that. Do more of that, please. And you got Agent M in there, like I said. Do more of that. That's some good stuff you're playing with. I like seeing that. It's really fun. What else can we talk about? We got her bands, are they called Bengals? Bengals, is that what they're called? They are a family heirloom. So they give her the power when she puts them on. She has like the power around her when she's at the costume contest. She accidentally uses the powers. It's not the Inhuman stretchy stuff. I wish it was, but I get why it's not, because we have to intrinsically connect her more to a Marvel character. It's got nothing to do with the Mr. Fantastic thing. It's just that we want her to be connected to Carol in a more way. So she's probably not Inhuman. It's probably just, I think it's the Nega bands. I think that's what we're going to say this is. And we could maybe like play a little bit more of like the Captain Marvel lore, not just like Marvel and stuff. Maybe Genisville will be connected and all that stuff. We could play with that a little bit. I think that's really cool. The power-up looks great. And again, it's kind of crystalline different, but I'm like, it looks good. She does the big stretchy hand too, and I like that. She stops a huge Ant-Man head from falling on somebody. It's really good. It looks fantastic, and I like to see that. Just made me smile. Just made me like, okay, I can get behind this power. I also do like how she has like this whole montage scene where she's talking to her like, here's how we're going to sneak out to get to Avengers Con, and her plan is essentially we're just going to get on a bus. I love that, because that is just so teenager, just so young person. Like, here's what's gonna be so shady and all this stuff. It's like a big plan. Here's all these stuff we're doing. And it's just like, oh, we're just gonna get on the bus and go down. Like an idea we should have had in the beginning, instead of asking your parents and then lying to your parents, and then your parents are actually gonna help you, and your father's gonna dress up like the Hulk. He's gonna have something with his culture on it, and you're gonna scream at your father and be like, no, the Hulk doesn't wear that, and you're gonna break his heart. You're gonna ruin your family's day. All because you just can't admit that your culture is important to you and your family, and it should be something you should celebrate as opposed to just worshiping superheroes. Instead of doing that, why don't we just get on a bus and just tell our parents we're doing something else? Why? I don't know. Maybe we should have done that from the beginning. Great sequence. I love seeing him in the Hulk costume. Oh, that was fun. Again, I love this actor. He's doing great. Everyone in the family's doing great. I like the way this episode ends, when it's just her mother is in her bedroom when she breaks through the door, or through the window, I should say. It's just like, wow, I should have expected that. I love it. She's just like, you should really think about the person you want to be, because who this is not a person you should be. Like, that's some good wisdom. I like that. It's very accurate to the comic book, and I feel like we're building up to that revelation where we see her mother is going to be proud of her for representing herself and being true to her when she becomes Miss Marvel throughout it. Now, there were beats of like Shazam in here where it feels like we might try to capitalize on her being a superhero on our online forums, and now suddenly Miss Marvel's going to become a vile person. No one's going to figure out it's her at the school, and Zoe's going to kind of like worship Miss Marvel in a sense. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But from this first episode, it was really fun. It was creative. It was brilliant. It had the slice of life superhero stuff that this character needed. It had the cultural stuff that this character needed. It did everything right it should have. I was genuinely blown away by how good it was. The acting was top notch. Just the energy, the vibe, the aesthetic it was going for, it was unreal. I was really not expecting it to go that hard in that direction. But this is a young person. This is somebody in the, what is the most current generation? Is it called Generation Y? Is that what it is? Or is it the iGen? This is the young generation. And this is how those characters would act today. This is how those teenagers act today. So I get that. And I think that's a really cool thing to see. It feels awesome. It looked awesome. This was very strong. This did service to Kamala Khan, to G. Willow Wilson, and everybody involved in those Miss Marvel comics. It felt great. Everybody looked the part. Everybody played the part. I really dug it, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. So we will be back next week to talk more Miss Marvel. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.